Right. Okay. Good evening to you. I'm Councillor Mike Johnston, Chair of the committee, fellow councillors, and Steve, our locum clerk. Welcome online and yourselves here in the audience. So, apologies for absence. We may get Tim turning up. Are there any others?
No, none wishes.
Okay. And declarations of interest. I will, on behalf of the application 2218, 10 Rockmore Road, I submitted comments in relation to, as my position as chair of the Gordano Civic Society, and I don't feel that these are prejudicial. Me sitting here because I might be persuaded otherwise in relation to my own personal views on this application. Right, to consider the minutes of the last meeting, are you happy to get those signed off as a true record of the meeting last month? Proposing, seconded by David, seconding. All in favour of the minutes, thank you. To receive the chair's report. Item 5, the pharmacy provision. It is understood that Allied Pharmacies has taken over the pharmacy sites that were operated by Jehoots in Waitrose and Portishead Medical Group. I don't know anything much about Allied. Do you? Anyone?
No, a big change.
Welcome, Tim. Do you have any declarations of interest? Okay. And the local plan reminded that the consultation on the the local plan from North Somerset Council is open until Friday the 12th of this month. More about that in a minute. Item 5.3, home buying and selling reform. Consultation being run by the Ministry of Housing, Communications and Local Government to seek views on proposals to improve the house buying and selling process. And this is a consultation open until the 29th of this month, and there's an online address there. Item 5.4 is in relation to the Hinckley Connection project, just to say that everything has been completed on Sheepway, etc. Item 5.5, the Highways Improvement Nor Road update. North Somerset has now updated its records in terms of the accidents on the road and the improvement request made. Highways have asked that the scorer consider the accidents on cab stand. So I think that it's now moved up from 1 to 2 on a scale of what, 1 to 5?
No, scale of 9 or 10.
Oh, really? So in other words, they don't recognise it as being
so as far as I can see, out of all the points awarded in ranking applications, death or a serious injury only contributes at most 25% of the score, probably less than that. And I'll separately write a draft letter just highlighting that issue. It just seems to me the scoring system is doesn't weight towards public safety and hazard. It's, it gives equal concern to things like sustainable transport and other policies. My sense is if there have been serious casualties in an area, that should be given considerably more weight than it currently is. I think that's both a planning issue and a public health issue.
Okay, and you mentioned that they had overlooked the quite serious accident lower down on Nor Road on cab stand.
Indeed.
Okay, well, thanks for doing the work that you've done on that. And the next item is in relation to Blacknor Lighthouse. As you know, the CIC has been struck off and it's now in the hands of the Crown. We await to hear any information in respect to its future from them. The 5.7 is the consultation on the proposals to change the council tax reductions, and that consultation is open for comment until the 6th of January.
Mike, I just want to, should we put in a town council recommendation in relation to that? Because essentially it's about removing the reductions that people who are in financial need get as a result of being in such financial need from, and Roger maybe knows more about it than I do, but from, I think, something like 70 or 80% down to 65%, but Roger probably knows the details more than I do. And it seems to me, on face value, it seems to me like it's like to increase inequalities.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than it initially looks, because there's a whole scheme of reductions based upon people's need within there, and there's a whole host of different schemes that are done by other councils, ranging from 100% down to 40 or 50% off. But it's sort of banded and zoned, and it's not quite as straightforward as you might think. So some people who seem to get 100% don't do as well as others who get about 60 or 70%, because of the way it's banded. So it's a little bit strange. Even after the reductions in there, which I think are scheduled to save in the region of £500,000, um, they're what is being offered from North Somerset is still quite generous when you compare to some of the other areas in the region. It's statutory, so we have to do it, but we don't have to do the same as everybody else. So it's statutory, but we have flexibility in what we do there. But this is only for people of working age. So the government mandate that people of pensionable age have to have the reduction that the government say. So this is for people of working age. So there's been some reductions in the amounts of savings as well last year for people to qualify. And from a North Somerset perspective, I'll say no one wants to do it. No one wants to do this, and we didn't do it last year because no one could agree on it. But the situation is such that we have to find savings, and it's a really nice to have, but it's not a you have to legally do it.
So the government will set some of the parameters in relation to what you mentioned in pensioners, but the other banding is up to the local authority to decide.
Yeah. And even with the reductions in the banding, it's still relatively generous, or in line with others around us. So some have larger headline discount rates, but worse bandings, which means that they don't get the level of support that we give in this area.
Oh, I see. Okay, David.
Can I just, so I've got the question up in front of me, and it's a reduction, absolutely. So it's going to affect 6,400 working aged residents in North Somerset. And at present, the scheme can cover up to 75.5% of a household's council tax bill, and they're going to reduce it to 65.5% of help if this gets agreed. So I guess my instinct is just, well, if it's £500,000, that's a lot of money, but it's still it's something that's going to increase inequalities rather than reduce inequalities.
David,
I think there's been equalities impact assessments on this. I don't know what the full published result is of that, but a lot of these changes, although it sounds like 10% off sounds like a lot of money, it doesn't equate to very much money. And the people who are, should we say, the worst off, are protected.
David, are you wishing to maybe draft anything letter-wise on behalf of the committee or PTC?
That was, I mean, I put in a personal response to this, but it was a question of whether we wanted to put in a committee response.
What did the committee feel in relation to this?
I'm happy for David's response to represent us, if that helps.
Absolutely.
Fine.
He's happy to do that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go on again and just put in a similar response on behalf of the council.
Okay.
People are happy with that.
I will just say that last year this went out to public consultation over the budget, and the majority of people who came back said that it should be reduced. Last year the savings were proposed at 1.5 million and they failed, and this year they're being proposed at 0.5 million, 500,000. So it's been scaled back to try and make it politically acceptable, because last year it was politically unacceptable to make those level of cuts.
Right. Fine. Thank you. Okay, well, that's Chair's report concluded. So public participation. So we have Grace online and yourselves. So would you like to speak?
We'd like to speak.
From one of these mics, if you could, please.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Just give us your name and.
Yep.
We're wearing my glasses. I'm seeing.
My name is Stephen Gill, and my family have lived at number 8 for 40 years. But I'm also speaking on behalf of Oliver Shadbolt and Angus Wardle, who live at 4 and 6, respectively.
And this is Rodmore Road.
This is Rodmore Road, yes, indeed. Numbers 4, 6, 8 and 10 Rodmore Road need no introduction to all who visit the lake grounds. Built in 1935, they stand a testament to the arts and crafts movement of the early 20th century. And current and past documents over many generations have respected and sought to retain the original features incorporated by the local builder Frank Hinton. Arts and craft houses are known for their distinctive and aesthetically pleasing exteriors, which showcase the quality of their design and construction. The architectural style, which developed from the arts and craft movement, has at its heart 5 defining principles: clarity of form and structure, variety of materials, asymmetry, traditional construction, craftsmanship. Features include asymmetric steeply pitched roofs with exposed timber beams, chimneys with decorative brickwork, stone and brick detailing on walls and cladding, and windows built from small panes of glass in a classic cottage style. All these features are present at numbers 4, 6, 8 and 10. This symmetry is not incidental, but fundamental to the architectural intent. Historic semi-detached design relies on this paired composition, which reads as a unified whole from the street. This group of 4 similar properties collectively strengthens this character. Now, if I'd like to address the applications as submitted to the council. The title of the planning application claims it to include a first floor side extension over the existing garage, when in fact it is a full height 3-floor side extension, ground, first and second floors, including the conversion of the existing hipped roof to a new gable end and incorporating a staircase to the second floor dormer extension. This and the rear dormer loft extension are overbearing and out of character with the existing dwelling. Both will be visible from the defined conservation area between Battery Lane and Woodhill Road, and in particular, the Grade 2 listed Adelaide Terrace. We were led to understand that the applicant wished for an additional bedroom and study, but what we have here are 2 additional ensuite bathrooms, a master bedroom, a dressing room, an extended kitchen and dining room, and a staircase. These interventions significantly modified the building envelope, silhouette, and visual weight. They go far beyond minor domestic extensions and represent a fundamental redesign of half of the symmetrical unit. Planning inspectors consistently treat symmetry in semi-detached properties as a protected design attribute, where symmetry is a defining local characteristic. Its loss is regarded as harmful to the character of the townscape. There are fenestration changes inconsistent with the established pattern. In particular, the Velux Cabrio balconies are entirely inappropriate on a building of this age and style. The ecological assessment is incomplete and non-independent, and there is an insufficient VAT inspection and/or survey. There's no evidence of how surface water or additional foul water will be managed. Foul and surface water currently flows via a shared system with number 8, and the proposed 2 additional bathrooms raises the question of sewer capacity. And there's no evidence that the property is capable of delivering the second floor loft extension. There are no North Somerset Council heritage design or access statement. And this is, and I quote, a report accompanying a planning application showing the process that led to a development proposal. It explains the design approach, demonstrating how a proposed development is a suitable response to the site and its setting. It allows applicants to demonstrate how a development responds to its historic context while ensuring it is well designed, emphasizing the retention of paired symmetry, a careful response to conservation area context, and warns against visually dominant extensions. The application fails to adopt the guidance given in the Council's supplementary design guide. It asks, would the size and bulk of the proposed extension be disproportionate to the original building? and it responds, overly large extensions that harm the visual quality of an area will not be granted planning permission. In addition, it asks, would the shape and the proposed extension be in keeping with the shape of the original building? And it answers that by saying, inappropriately shaped extensions that harm the visual quality of an area will not be granted planning permission. And the proposals also conflict with North Somerset policies CS12, which deals with high quality design. This requires development to respect local character, scale and built form relationships, and the increased massing and altered roof form conflict with these aims. It also conflicts with DM32, householder extensions. This requires extensions to be subservient, proportional and respectful of original roof forms. A new rear dormer, gable and 3-floor extension contradict these principles. Finally, contrary to what is quoted on page 4 of the supporting statement, the statements and plans do not, and I quote, demonstrate that the proposals to number 10 Rodmore Road have been designed in accordance with the local and national planning policies, nor are they sympathetic to the character of the host property. How can it be claimed that they create a wonderful balanced family home which sits comfortably on this plot, which does not have an overbearing impact on the neighbouring properties, when the evidence demonstrates something quite different? So we collectively ask, that the application is refused or withdrawn pending more sympathetic and proportional proposals being submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Right.
I think everybody heard me, but for the benefit of the
People online.
yeah, my name is Max Ward, and I'm one of the applicants from 10 Rodmore Road, which is the agenda item here. I've just made some notes because there's a few points I want to pick up on. A statement which I have a copy of here was submitted to the planning application a few days ago. I hope everybody's had the opportunity to read that statement. It's prefixed with that image. If you haven't read it, I urge you to, because there's a lot of misunderstanding regarding our application, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's there for everybody to read, but I'll pick up on a few key points, I think. So I think I'd like to challenge respectfully the visibility from the conservation zone. I've had a look, and with the exception of when Number Gate's the rear entrance to the driveway is open, it's not visible so far as I can tell from any public vantage point on Battery Lane. We have a 3.5 foot high wall that's then have fencing that takes up to above 7 feet. So I would challenge the fact there's visibility from the conservation zone, and that's very easy to test. Google Street View has been all over the area, so you can test that quite easily. Also, a minor correction. I think we're not increasing the number of bathrooms by 3. There's already another ensuite that would be demolished and essentially replaced. So there's an increase of 1 bathroom. Not the stated number. I also think that perhaps the definition of a 3-story extension is open to interpretation. There is a proposed, and it's all here documented on the plans, there is a proposed side extension, which would be a new addition to the footprint, if you will, of the property, but that is the only increase to the external boundaries of the existing building, as shown in the plans. And as also documented in the plans, we have committed to keep the style of the leaded windows, the render, which is not particularly of the arts and crafts era. It's not a rough cast, it's a fairly smooth, fairly contemporary render. We've committed to keeping the pan tiles of the roof. And I've done some research into the arts and crafts era. I did have some knowledge of it, but I thought, if I'm coming to a committee, I ought to make myself informed. So I spent a good few hours on the Royal Institute of British Architecture's website, specifically in the section to do with that covers arts and crafts era style houses. And as my neighbour Stephen mentioned, there's a characteristic is asymmetry, not symmetry. A defining characteristic of the arts and crafts style is asymmetrical buildings. Another interesting fact that I found was that the prevalence of gable walls in arts and crafts style houses is far more common than hipped roofs. In addition to glazed windows with the lead and often coloured patterns, which is something we intend to put in the window that faces north if we're giving approval. So I think actually there is an argument that we would be leaning into the arts and crafts styling of the property, not detracting from it. Although I do totally accept that we would be breaking the symmetry of the 4 houses that have been symmetrical for a long time. So that I would not contest, because obviously we are. But I do contest that we would be breaking the arts and crafts symmetry of the property. And I would urge anybody to go to the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architecture's website, and read for yourself if you doubt my information. As regards to whether the building can support that, as I'm sure you're aware, you wouldn't necessarily go to the point of having a structural engineer when you're in this preliminary stage. We would have to and would be duty bound to get a structural engineer to design and approve plans before we could move forward anyway. And obviously we would keep that commitment. And if a structural engineer advises us that is not possible, we would absolutely understand that argument and have to go back and redesign. Now, as I've mentioned in my notes, we are open if a possibility can be found that would maintain some form of hipped roof for purely to keep the symmetry. Although at this point in time, we're advised by our architects that they haven't been able to meet the necessary fire regulations to put an additional staircase in to go into the loft and maintain enough headroom between the narrowest point on the stairs and the ceiling. And that's why essentially we felt forced to suggest the gable wall. Let me just quickly check my notes. I think the Velux cabrios are obviously something that is a very modern design. The only reason for those being in there was to achieve natural light to the frontage of the building and ventilation, with one eye to the future with increasing temperatures. However, as I've put in the pack that I submitted, we are open, if North Somerset Council are open to giving us the option of doing something like an eyebrow dormer, which actually ironically are only pretty much seen on arts and crafts style houses. And I do know that having front dormers are frowned upon, hence why we didn't go down that road originally. But given the nature of the house and the nature of the challenges, if that would be looked upon favorably, that's something we would consider. But I need to be crystal clear. That wouldn't be to do with increasing the size or the footprint of the available space, which is often why dormers are put in. It would be purely to keep the aesthetic and to allow natural light and visibility from the front. So that is something that we would keep on the table. But at this point in time, because the Velux windows, frankly, they're not part of a requirement for planning applications. That's why we haven't gone down that road at this point in time. I think I've covered most of my points, but if anybody has any questions or observations, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yes, pretty sure there will be some questions. I can see David has already got his hand up. Could I just ask you one first, which is in relation to the chimney? Mention has been made on the chimneys. You're going to be planning to remove one?
No, that's incorrect.
That's incorrect.
So
Okay.
on my list, in fact, that's one of my 3rd or 4th points on my list of inaccuracies. I really hope not, because I've paid a substantial sum of money to a builder to reinstate the fireplace next month. Well, in fact, this month now. So the chimney is present on the plans. I don't know where this misunderstanding has come from.
Okay.
But the chimney is absolutely present on the plans and is being reinstated this month at great expense. And we're committed to keeping the styling of the leaded windows and the overall styling of the era.
And mention again has been made of the rear dormer,
Yeah.
and its rather dominant position on the rear of the property. Is there any mitigation to changing that?
We asked our architects to keep the footprint within what would be allowed under permitted development, noting that this is a full application and therefore the boundaries of permitted development don't apply to this application. My personal view, whilst yes, it's an addition, it won't cause any lack of view from the garden, maybe at a small corner of advantage when you look northwest, but I don't consider it dominant. I think this is an emotive topic for people, understandably wanting to maintain the history of some houses in a fairly prominent location. Portishead, I have grown up in Portishead. I'm the 4th generation. Sorry, my children are the 4th generation of my family to live in Portishead. We go way back, although you don't realise it or know at the moment, but we can talk outside. So I am aware of the history of Portishead, having grown up here. And I feel very honoured and privileged to have purchased this property, that we are committed to renovating it. Unfortunately, the previous owner, I think, had lacked some funding over a number of years, and it's fallen into disrepair. I frequently don't have any hot water to wash my children in at the moment, and the roof's leaking. I dread storms at the moment. So there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done. And we want to do that to a high standard, high quality, and as much as possible in keeping with the current style, noting that we were unable to avoid a gable wall is the advice we've received.
Thank you. David?
Mine was just a question of what is an eyebrow dormer?
It's a dormer that essentially looks very naturally cut into the roof line. They're not that common, and actually I didn't know what they were called until I researched them, and I think they're very beautiful additions to homes. I think they're very attractive, and they were clearly done specifically for this kind of scenario from the 1920s and 30s. I'm happy to show you. In fact, if you want, a quick Google will show you some really beautiful eyebrow dormers. But interestingly, when I Googled the heritage of an eyebrow dormer, they are typically found on arts and crafts style houses.
Further
For the front.
further questions from other councillors? Marianne?
I think you've already answered my question, because I was going to suggest that it looks like the roof is quite old and in need of repair. And that's probably what's brought you to kind of make a decision to kind of.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The roof is leaking. Every single room in the house currently has damp issues as a result, and is desperate need of replacement. And in actual fact, the previous owner at some point although obviously ours is the one on your bottom right is probably of the panel is probably more in keeping with the colour and style of the roof. The previous owner at some point in the 1980s did have a loft conversion, but it wasn't done to any regulations. So in reality, all of the supporting structures within the roof have already been removed, and the building is already sustaining the weight of that roof. Presumably some form of reinforcement was done, but I would say, it's probably not recognised by today's standards.
So definitely you'll need some work doing to it
Before it blows away, yes.
before it collapses on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I do think I'd benefit personally from seeing the structural engineer and the new plans of, like, so I've read your document and I could see it here, and you've got retention of both chimneys and everything, but if we could visually have those plans,
Yeah,
see them updated.
So as things currently stand, the plans I've described are the ones that are submitted. So they are available on the portal in addition, but I think it's really important if you're going to read the comments. Unfortunately, I don't know where the misunderstandings have come from, but there were an awful lot of misunderstandings in various comments, which is why we took the time to compile the document that goes through and addresses each of them. Okay.
I think for me, as a local in the area, the key issue really is the symmetry from the front as you drive down the road. It's a kind of, I think those two semi-detached houses next to each other. I'm going to take what you say about arts and crafts and asymmetry, but actually the symmetry of those two buildings is really.
I totally accept that side of the discussion. There is a wonderful symmetry to those houses, and our initial instructions were to our architects were, we want to preserve that if you can find a way.
Looking at this picture of an eyebrow window in the roof, that looks. So that's the one you were thinking about.
Something along those lines, probably not quite as large as that actually, but I need to be crystal clear so that nobody feels misinformed. I want to make sure everybody understands. The eyebrow dormer would be as an alternative to Velux windows.
Still would introduce asymmetry in the kind of the roof.
Therefore, but probably a more sympathetic asymmetry. Yeah. And dare I say, I think future owners, future generations may actually seek to do the same thing. Yeah. Because then again, because I genuinely think they're beautiful, and I didn't know that they were synonymous with arts and crafts styles until I started doing this research. But the reason I want to make sure everybody understands this point is because that doesn't, even if we were to have the eyebrow dormer, that wouldn't avoid the need for the gable wall at the moment. They're not related issues.
Okay, further councillors, any comments or questions? We'll obviously discuss this in a moment. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much for your time.
Any comments in the public participation form online? No? Right. So in that case, we'll consider the first of the planning applications on our list this evening, which is 2218 10 Rodmore Gardens, and I'll read out the full summary of the proposals. Excuse me, chaps. Demolition of the existing single-hit roof dormer to the side elevation and proposed erection of a first floor side extension over the existing garage, single-story side extension following demolition of the existing garden store and hip to gable loft conversion with rear dormer. Who would like to open the discussion? Please go ahead, Marianne.
Well, Martin, do you want to go first, actually?
No, carry on. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask Roger maybe whether this is, I know this is coming, but I know they're not a heritage site for, listed or anything, but really, I think for most people in this area, you kind of want them listed and preserved the way that they are symmetrically, and this visually, our lake grounds is kind of that's a prominent feature of our lake grounds. Is that?
They're not currently on the asset register, but they are being proposed to be put on because of their heritage and position.
Thinking because
And
it
as you can
used
see,
to be.
they are bounded by the conservation area.
Well, whilst we've been sat here, I've been looking through the Portishead neighbourhood plan to see whether or not they were listed in the plan as being of any significant value architecturally, which they're not. However, there is a category under policy PEB3 local heritage for non-designated heritage assets, which they may be considered as a non-designated heritage asset, I would guess. I mean it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there are lots of properties around the lake grounds which were synonymous with the type of build that we had in Portishead, which are no longer because they've been developed out of character as such, or they've developed a new character for Portishead, whichever way you want to look at that. So there's pros and cons, isn't there, on this? But there's nothing really to say that it can't go ahead in the same way that there's nothing to say that it can go ahead. So it is literally just a judgment call, and which unfortunately means that there's nothing I can give you to help you on that one.
Thank you, Ron.
David?
But our role as a committee, I mean, North Somerset will listen to us, but our role as a committee is in part to guide them about the local situation of houses from our knowledge of the area, which is something, I mean, I understand they relatively rarely pay site visits these days. It does happen, but so they're reliant upon us to give them a sense of place. And I always feel bad saying negative things about developments because people buy houses, they want to develop, and we need to keep improving the quality of our housing. On the one hand, but on the other hand, these are kind of signal properties, and my only concern really is just that aesthetic effect as you go down the road, and if the design can be mitigated in some way. And I think in order for that to happen, it sounds like we need to say to the planning department that we object on the grounds of aesthetics, and we'd like to see a different plan for the frontage of the building. Then that would be the way I'd be inclined to go with this. But,
Tim, do you have comments, please? As ward councillor, district.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful street, and my worry is if it being changed too much, but I think with a new plan it might be a lot better. But looking at that, it does look big, to be fair, and but we've lost the house on the top and the corner, and that has just been changed so dramatically. I'd hate to see it again, so that's my feelings on it really. It's It's quite a hard one, really.
I think in relation to the one on the corner, as it was a standalone house, which of course is shown on the same photographs, isn't it, from many years ago, the question in relation to these two pairs is that they do currently have symmetry in the street scene. And this application in front of us will change that. And I feel from the feeling around the table that this was not something that we would.
Is there any form of design change that could be employed, particularly to this end elevation, that would be acceptable to everybody?
Well, that's up to their architects and
Come in a second and reverse that question. Really, what if you're concerned about losing certain parts of the scene? What is it that you're most concerned about? Because that may give you something to put, if you're going to put an objection into North Somerset, may give you something to coalesce around. And equally, it may give the gentleman here something to work with going forwards if he knows which parts give you the most cause for concern. Does that make sense?
So from my perspective, I don't worry about the scene from Battery Lane myself. I don't think it's terribly visible from Battery Lane, and I don't think there's something so apparent there. I think it's the frontage. I think it's the squared off end compared to the sloping end of the other houses, and I think it's the dormer windows as well as they're on these plans sort of sticking out. I think if that could be softened, that so those.
May I ask the question?
for clarity, yes.
So if we were to go back to our architects and ask them again to revisit the possibility, would this, and again, I'm asking for your opinions as well, please. If we maintained the extension to the roof, so the roof does get slightly longer by about 2 meters at the top. I'm not an architect, so I'm just guessing slightly here, but it's about approximately 2 meters longer. But if we were able to drop it down at the same angle, so that the angles were symmetrical, would that be acceptable?
Well, we have in fact not commissioned, but we've drawn some potential silhouettes that might accommodate much of what was being required, but it doesn't include the conversion of the loft, I have to say. So
the loft was originally built as a play area for children.
I think you'll find if you speak to the neighbours, they all investigated the conversion of the loft, and they were told in no uncertain terms that it was not possible.
Okay.
That's something you'll need to find.
No, absolutely.
But I think what you're suggesting is clearly
Well,
the path which all of us, I think, would be approving.
Fine. And the reason I asked that question is because of these regulations around the distance between the narrowest point between a stair and the ceiling. That's really what's affected our plans. We're reluctant to move the stairs inward because then you have to have, I forget what it's essentially like a foyer with 2 doors. And that takes so much space that it's then not worthwhile doing the loft conversion. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And that's specifically why I asked if the symmetry of the hit roof, whilst being a slightly extended version, would be acceptable. Because I think that way we could keep the majority of them.
It's feasible that that would be accommodated, but I don't know whether you actually achieve all the internal accommodation.
Well, as I mentioned in the submission, we are willing to look at some compromises. So, for example, in the current plans, there's some extra storage in the end, simply because it would be wasted space otherwise. We're more than happy to sacrifice that and reduce the size of the room if it would allow. But the fundamental thing is getting the staircase up. That's what's been our impediment. So, if I'm more than happy to ask our architects to look again. Once this has gone through the end, I want to see this through just because, but that doesn't mean to say that we are not willing to go back and redesign.
I don't want to be overcritical, but I mean, I did investigate your architects, and I think they're architectural technicians. They're not RIBA chartered architects. RIP architect, I would think.
Okay, I think we need to draw things to a conclusion.
Thank you.
Could you also at the same time just reinvestigate the rear? I mean, that huge gate dormer, could it be broken up into maybe a pair rather than one
We can.
long one?
I'm happy to look at that.
Thank you.
So in a sense, you are now withdrawing the application as it stands.
No, I need to speak to the architects first.
Yes.
Because if they come back to me and tell me they've already investigated all possibilities, there's no point in me withdrawing because I have to make the house suitable for my family. So, but the commitment I am willing to make is I respect your opinions, and but ultimately the planners will decide. When they've decided, if they decide in our favour, I will commit to still investigating the possibilities. We will not fall.
Okay.
We will not go ahead unless we've investigated. And I'll further commit that if we can find a way of keeping the staircase on the left-hand side of the building, where that would afford us the correct amount of space upstairs, if that can be done, I will then at that point come back with revised plans.
Okay. Right. So committee, we need to have some wording in relation to our opinions. So we are objecting to the current application on the grounds that it's overbearing, aesthetically overbearing, detrimental to the street scene. Anything else? And contrary to one or two of the local plan, etc. DM 3238.
Simple. Yeah.
Got a few notes there, Steve?
Thanks, yeah.
Plenty. Proposer?
I don't mind.
Can I just speak before you go to a vote on that one, just to say that myself and Tim both sit on the planning committee down at North Somerset, and therefore will be abstaining from the vote on this one for clarity.
All right. So the pair of you proposed, seconded, in favour of the comments that we're going to get drafted. Thank you. Right. Do feel free to go if you wish to. Thank you. Right, moving on then to 2245, 61 Hillside Road, proposed partial demolition and conversion of the existing integral garage, erection of an on-street attached garage to the front elevation alongside the creation of a balcony and associated balustrading above. So the property in question, along with many others on Hillside Road, has been substantially changed. That was all approved, so this is really an amendment to what they want to do at the frontage. Comments? It doesn't strike me as being particularly much of an issue. I'll propose approval. No objection. Seconded. All in favour of no objection. Rod Moore? Again. 2278, this is the house on Battery Lane, so this is within the conservation area. And they want to replace the roof with the steel sheeting, zinc sheeting, I beg your pardon, which is quite common, I think, if you look at the properties that were developed down at the end of All Saints Lane in Clevedon. They're all grey zinc roofed, and Councillor Burden was proposing the same on his application for a barn conversion, which got rejected, as you'll see in the list, surprisingly. So any comments on this particular one? Again, it's in your ward, you two.
It's not particularly visible.
No.
It seems uncontentious, really. There've been no comments online about it. No one's approached me.
No.
I'd be happy to support it.
No, I'd agree with that. I think it's not going to be seen from. Is it? You know, it's not a standout glare in your face business. So
No,
I think
no,
I don't
it
think
isn't
it's
at
a
all.
problem.
Right, proposer, please. For no objection, David, seconded by Martin. All in favour of no? Yeah, unanimous. Thank you. 2295 NMA, non-material amendment to application at the land at Harbour Crescent. This is in relation to the local equipped area for play, LEAP, or the local equipment area for play. Any comments? It seems pretty innocuous to me. They're just moving it from one corner to the other. No. Proposer, please. No objection. Mariam, seconded. Roger, all in favour, no objection. Thank you. Carried. 1823, 41 High Street, demolition of the existing rear extension and proposed erection of a larger replacement single-story rear extension to provide additional clinical space. This is Boots the opticians. They just want to have some rooms at the back for optical work. Roger?
Yeah, I see no problems with this. I don't think anyone will see it from the front, and I don't think it's particularly overlooked from the back. So it seems like a suitable thing to do.
Right. Would you like to propose that, Roger, then? No objection. Thank you. Seconded by David. All in favour? Carried. Righty-ho. Moving on. It's then to 2321, the snug, the rear of 27 Clevedon Road. Retention of use from ancillary residential annex to serviced accommodation. Now, there is an objection online in relation to the parking of vehicles which obscure the access to the main road. It struck me that the area in question, which has kind of got an off-street parking, could be increased a little bit if they nudge the boundary fence. So I sort of go along with the objection online. Well, the comment online, it's not actually an objection, it's neutral. Roger.
So originally this was an annex to the house for I guess guests to stay in who were using the house as the main facility, and this is a change from an annex to a house to a standalone dwelling, but obviously only for short-term lets, not to live in fully. It takes, I mean, it's a conversion of the garage, and it takes the garage and parking space for that property, which to my mind would leave the property with no off-street parking when it was designed with off-street parking. So in principle, I don't see anything wrong with what they're doing here, except for the fact that I'm concerned that we're now well below parking standards for the property and the area that's being let out as well. So I'd like to maybe see us asking or saying we have no objections subject to parking standards being maintained in this one, which could cause them a significant problem. I don't know. I'm not sure how much garden space they've got to knock that about. But there was some mention in the comment, and I haven't been round to see it recently. There's some mention in the comment that they'd put a decked area where you'd expect them to be parking, and therefore they've removed more parking from the property. But that was in the comment that was neutral, I think, wasn't it?
It was neutral. I thought that this was originally a decked area and it was removed and created into a parking area. But as far as I'm aware from what the comment says, it's only really suitable for a very small vehicle.
Yeah. So not usable for either anybody who's letting that space out or for the main dwelling at all.
Exactly.
But there is possibility for on-street parking, but do we want to open that door?
Well, I'm not sure the carriageway is particularly wide, actually.
And having been down there, there are quite a lot of cars already parked on the street, and it just increases the congestion. I think your suggestion about just referring to the parking folk is the right one with us, really.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah. And Mike, I take your point. It looks like there is potential in the land there to increase the parking.
Well, yes. I mean, I think it could get shifted around a little bit more just to close that gap. Right. So said comment will be form of objection in a sense. Yeah. Subject to. So.
Yeah, no objection, subject to parking regulations being adhered to.
Okay.
Proposing.
Thank you, Marianne. Seconded. Roger. Carried. 2371, 18 Halliwell Road, Section 73 application to vary condition. We went through Section 73 last month, so it's just minor tweaking of the internal layout of it. They've obviously reconsidered things in relation to how they wish to live in the house. So, any issues with this one? No.
No objection.
Proposer, please. No objection. Roger, seconded by David. No objection all round. And then the next one is not a planning application in relation to broadband telecommunication. Right, we have some late applications. Have you had a chance to look at them?
I have.
I have.
I have.
Okay, can we go through them? Because then we can kind of clear the decks for Christmas.
I'm happy to discuss.
Okay. Well, one is within the. Are you aware of what we've got in front of us? Right. Well, it's within the conservation area, so it's Wood Close, which is that house there.
Printed off on that sheet.
This one?
Yeah.
So it's that house there. Wood Close on Woodlands Road. So this is the demolition of the existing carport and that one there. And the conversion of the existing internal garage, and then the alterations to the detached triple garage, which sit in a plot of land alongside, to include replacement of one existing up and over garage door with a new window and white rendered wall below, and addition of a single leaf door for pedestrian access to the side elevation of part of the garage to be used as a workshop. Now, Roger, I'll come to you in a moment. The current garage is possibly a bit narrow for most modern vehicles, and so they want to convert it into a study with a fenestration at the front, very similar to the fenestration in their house, which is almost arts and crafts in itself, and built in the 1930s. So that's what they wish to do. So here's a before and after if you want. There we go. Existing and proposed. And ditto in the garage, it's fairly straightforward and simple. They just want to remove one of the up and over doors with a window. Roger.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of growing up just up the road from where this house was. So I've seen this house over many years. Lovely house. The triple garage when I was growing up used to be stables.
Mhm.
They had horses in there and everything. The carport that is currently there adds absolutely nothing to the building. I would be happy to see the back of that. The building's sort of right on the end anyway, so you don't really notice it, but I'd be quite happy to see the back of that. The conversion of that garage, they don't need 4 garages. It's a big house, but no one needs 4 garages plus an in and out driveway to the triple garage anyway. So I think this is a really good adjustment to what is a lovely property and will enhance it rather than make it worse. So I'd be happy to say no objection on that one.
Okay.
Just a general point, and I agree with Roger. This looks very straightforward. I just worry sometimes with these late applications that people haven't had a chance to comment on them yet, so we can't see what the locals, residents think, which can sometimes inform our judgments. I just wonder whether others had a thought about that. I know all we can do is advise, and we can advise on local aesthetics and things, but it's just a worry when this was validated on the 21st of November. So given the state of posts at the moment, I suspect neighbours might not even yet have received notification of it. But
I did consider that. I looked at the target date, which is the 16th of Jan, and if we were to wait till our next meeting, which is the 7th, there's still time to get that in, so we could do it that way. Alternatively, we could propose no objections, subject to no objections from the neighbours.
As you wish.
So, but either of those, I mean, we can defer it. It's not a problem.
I'm happy to go along with that suggestion.
it was just it's what others think, if that's reasonable. It almost feels for the ones that have been hanging around for longer, they got more of a chance for people to think about it and some comments. But
I mean, sadly, I don't think that there will be any online objections because we had the issue with the one just up the road where they lopped off the arts and crafts house, they lopped off the rear chimney. Right.
Well,
No.
sorry, Chair, are we deferring that one or?
No, we're going to say no objections, subject to no further comments. In which case we might bring it back in January, but as it stands, no objection. Proposed by Roger and seconded by David, and all in favour. And then we have the tree. So we'll leave that to Jason to decide. And that's pretty close to where you were on Wood Hill, weren't you? 24 Wood Hill. Yeah. So, any comments in relation to no? And 6 Lower Down Road, 2421, proposed erection of a rear single-story extension and proposed front porch. Bungalow. Current entrance has got a triangular in the corner where it's an L shape. They just want to put a porch there and bring a different type of style of door and go out the back to create a larger area, dining room and such like. So here we go, Powerhouse Architects, so you can interpret that as... I don't think it's contentious myself. It's at the rear, no one can see it really. Did you have any comments, either of you?
I can't see what problem all that is.
If you want to defer it, we'll defer it.
I looked at this earlier on today. I had no issues with it. However, Wednesday, I think there was something to do with its determination date. So, determination deadline is the 21st of Jan, so that's even later than the other one. So we're well within time if we wanted to defer that, because our next one's the 7th,
Yeah,
isn't it?
fine, we'll defer it. Okay. Do the same as the last one.
Just do approve. No objection as long as there's no those comments.
Yep, fine. Will do. Okay, Steve.
They are difficult. They are difficult, those decisions where you
Don't decide.
You raise no objection subject to no objection being raised by neighbours, because I have to submit your decision in the portal. So they will get a no objection because the way the portal works, I have to select your decision and it'll have to be no objection. Even though I'll put in the comment box, Paul said, might reconsider this if there are further objections. You would have to remember, somehow remember to put it on the agenda at the next meeting if somebody objects, which is my suspicion is that doesn't happen. No. And it just goes through as a no objection. So, yeah. So it's safer, I think, if you've got time, safer to defer than to do a no objection subject to no objection. Oh, but it's up to you. I mean, I'll submit it as you've agreed, but it can be tricky, I think, that one.
What do we feel?
I mean, we can go back on that if you want.
You prefer to defer them, although we're all fairly well in agreement with not having objections to them. Why don't we just say no objection?
Well, if it's the best.
Right. And we'll carry both of those, all right?
Could we change that then to no objection subject to no reasonable objections being raised by the neighbours?
Which is pretty well what you said in the first
place.
Yeah,
no, that's just added that because they could, if you say subject to no objections and they put in unreasonable objections, that doesn't change it.
Hard to judge that. It's tricky.
Well, they'd have to be reasonable in planning terms, wouldn't they?
Yeah, we haven't had long enough to really look at it. So.
It will be over Christmas. No one's going to be objecting to anything.
I see it happening.
Both of them, there are time to defer and still be within the deadline. So we wouldn't be getting in anyone's way if we wanted to defer.
Well, I think we should just say no objection, really. Sounds right.
Who wishes to defer these two applications? Roger one. Any others?
I didn't say we should defer.
Well, I'm reading between the lines, Roger. So no objection for both of these applications. Carried. Right. 8.2 then, highways improvements. I won't go through all this list because clearly the desires to have crossings over Harbour Road will probably happen once the road layout's changed in that location.
We discussed these last month, and we had 3 of these last month from probably different people.
We did, yes.
That's the decision we made. So
yeah. 8.2, well, to erect a hedgehog giveaway sign on Avon Way. The recommendation is to consider the proposal and supporting the installation of hedgehog warning signs on Avon Way. I presume that these are all fairly okay with the Highways Authority, are they? Or North Somerset Highways?
Well, I haven't seen one for years, but
We actually do get a lot of dead hedgehogs on Lower Down Road. So that if that's the case, if that's a new precedent, we'll need it all over the town.
Well, we had low-flying owls, didn't we, on the Portbury 100 at one point, but that was a while back. But they disappeared, the signs. Roger, yes?
Where did this come from?
I've no idea.
Was this our idea? Did somebody send it in? Is there any context behind it? Are there stats for the number of dead hedgehogs? And I felt I don't know if everyone remembers the low flying owls one. But there was a sign saying low flying owls, and you think, great, what am I going to do now? Yeah, what do they want me to do about the low flying? And the same with the hedgehogs. What do they want me to do with the hedgehogs? It's dark. I won't see it until I've run over it. Do they want me to go down at 2 miles an hour? Then should we just change the speed limit? I don't see too much value in it, to be totally honest, unless someone's got something to back it up.
hedgehogs are an endangered species.
They are.
Hedgehogs, they do.
And I think if they make people look down when they're driving at night time, I think, and drive a bit more slowly.
Possibly,
It might
might have
make
to
people drive more faster. I guess the question is who pays for this?
We've got the frog signs in the marina as well around the nature reserve.
So if it's a local group that want to fund it, I think I'm all for it.
What does anybody know what that entails? Does that? Sorry.
Well, I think it's just entailing 2 signs, much as the little illustration of the pedestrian one here, in locations which I'm just trying to identify because this is a map showing dead hedgehogs and live sightings. So yes, there are a few on Avon Way, particularly down the bottom where the grassy bit is by Coombe Road. Okay, so yeah, well, we don't really have there's no name, or I can't find out who submitted that. So no, we don't have any objections, do we?
No objections to that.
I'm sure they would just attach them probably to the existing street signs. Right. Now, Mariam, I think you might be talking to the next one, which is a 20-mile-an-hour scheme outside of on the gyratory outside St. Joseph's School. Yeah.
Hopefully that's something that we can put through as well. We've already requested it from North Somerset, but they came back. I think the gentleman called David came back to Sharon, emailed her with some queries and said there are some things they can't do because it's so close to the main road roundabout. So the highways can't put signs or speeding restrictions there coming into Bristol Road off of that main coming off of the Portbury 100 into the Bristol Road because it's so close to this junction. But so closer towards the school is where they'll probably do the speed restrictions. And then they said they've already got a list of roads to do for Portishead, and they're just going to add this area then to that list of 20-mile-an-hour zones to do. And I think they're going to just add a sign to say that there's no pavement, no pathway, pedestrian walkway from football club down to I can't remember, Heron Gardens and that area there. So off back to the roundabout. So there's no pavement or road path, because I had another resident call me today. And well, she messaged and emailed, and I called her back and then sent her an email to follow up as well. But she was requesting that she lives very close to that football club, and where the roads is really fast. She's like, I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and the cars just come by so quickly. I have to take them to St. Peter's School. Can I have a zebra crossing there? Can I have restriction on? So it's something that's constantly coming up with the residents in Bristol Road.
So of course there's the bend there, isn't there, which is a bit of a hazard. Yeah, David, sorry.
I think we had a discussion about this last time as well. The zebra crossing, I think, was funded and we inherited it from the last council. There was some money set aside that I think Ben was pushing for.
So we've got the St Joseph's one.
He was talking about a zebra crossing close to the football club, I think.
It was.
And I wanted just to check that was in the pipeline, and Roger said something about that last time. I think about distances.
I was going to say it's a shame that Bob's not here because Bob did a lot of work on the zebra crossing, and there was an issue, wasn't there, with the zebra crossing?
I think it's too close to the junction.
There's not enough people crossing the road to support the need to put a zebra crossing in, and every few years it sort of comes back, and you can get them to go out and do some rough counts and see whether or not it's reached the threshold for it. But they're obviously resistant to put a zebra crossing on that road unless it actually meets certain criteria, which we haven't met. That being said, this is really about the 20-mile-an-hour zone, isn't it? And we've had far too many issues around that area to not have a 20-mile-an-hour zone. So I think we really need to, if it's on the cards, if they're going to do it, we need to give it our full support, and at least that's going to help something, because it's getting too frequent that there are, albeit minor incidents, that there are incidents there, and one day it won't be a minor incident if we don't do something about it.
Yeah. So we're all in favour of the 20-mile-an-hour.
Thank you.
Definitely. As for crossings, yes, I mean, you and I will remember, Roger, when they didn't want to put one outside the folk hall here because it didn't meet the criteria of enough people wishing to cross the road. Right. So does that conclude that section there? Yeah. Recommendation to consider and agree the proposed amendments and resubmit confirmation to North Somerset Council. Fine. So the last item is in relation to the local plan again. 12th of December, the cut-off. Paul and I, in relation to the plan engagement and the consultant who's been brought in, we'll be going through this. We're meeting later this week or next to formalize it and to submit it in due time. And that would be obviously against, the arguments, so I won't go through them now. So the recommendation is to facilitate the formal response of Portishead Town Council to North Somerset Council. The clerk, deputy clerk, in consultation with councillors Gardner and Johnston, be authorised to approve the response prepared by the council's planning consultant or consultants. You're right, fine. Okie dokie. So, well, all right. Vote away. I'll abstain because I'm on the list.
Thank you very much. That looks general, Chair.
So that's it then, isn't it? Then lastly, date of next meeting is Wednesday the 7th. And I might call upon you, Mariam, to chair that meeting. I fly back from Chicago that morning. So I'll attempt to be here, but I might be a bit jet lagged. Right, there we go. End of meeting.